This video is gonna make me a true crime case, but I'll take that risk. That was a joke, by the way, I'm kidding. Hey guys, it's Cloudy, and today I'm going to be tackling a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time, but today we're going to touch on it, and that is true crime content and how it's kind of messed up. So I want to talk a little bit, kind of just yap, I guess, about how really morally kind of off true crime content can be. And now I want to preface this by saying that, like, I am not trying to disparage anyone who watches true crime content or anyone who enjoys that kind of content or creators who do that content in a respectful manner. This is more me talking about a lot of the really messed up things that I see in regards to true crime content and calling that out and calling out the disrespect that happens in a lot of true crime content spheres. And the first thing that I want to kind of touch on is the popularization of true crime, right? Like, it has exploded. It has gotten really, really popular. And a few years ago, it was really popular, and then it kind of dipped. And now I'm seeing that it's getting more and more popular again. And with this popularization of true crime, I feel that there is this almost desensitization towards very, very horrific things. I feel like there is a really lack of reaction to a lot of the things that are being experienced. The things that I see and the way that people react to it, it's not as if they're looking at a real life tragedy or that they're looking at a real life event that happened to real people. It's almost as if they're looking at it from, oh, this is a fictional scenario and that this didn't happen. And a large part of that comes with the sensationalization of true crime and the glamorization of true crime. And it desensitizes people to the actual tragedy that a lot of these events are, right? Because a lot of people, when they're looking at content talking about really, really horrific things, they're not looking at it from this angle of this is something that happened to an actual human being. They're watching it as if it's some sort of content or entertainment for them to consume, something that they watch or listen to for fun, right? You have people listening to true crime podcasts on their commutes to work. You have people kind of discussing true crime in a very casual manner, and that I think speaks to the larger kind of sphere of true crime really almost causing this like dehumanization even of people. And I think it's important to sort of talk about how this, as a society, we are getting more and more desensitized to really, really horrific things, and people are kind of losing that almost empathy that they had, where they're not able to look at a situation and genuinely be like, oh my god, this is horrible. I think like the sensationalization of true crime has really played into this larger kind of thing where it's seen as like, oh, it's a fun hobby, instead of something that's like these are genuine tragedies, right, that happen to like actual people. And the ways that, and a large part of why there is this desensitization and sensationalization is the videos that are made. Because if you're watching a true crime video and someone is doing a mukbang and they're eating food while they're talking about it, or let's say they're putting on makeup when they're talking about it, or it's a podcast and they're discussing it in a very casual manner, you're not going to view that content with the same severity that you would, let's say, if you heard something like this on the news or if someone was talking about this as if it was the tragedy that it is, right? It's the content itself frames it as an entertainment. It frames it as a sort of fictional almost scenario. And so when the audience sees that, they don't view it as reality, they view it as just something for them to consume, just content for them to consume. And that makes them even more okay with a lot of the things, and it makes them a lot less empathetic and a lot less sensitive to the topics at hand, and they don't view it as if it's a real thing. And this desensitization has kind of evolved a lot into not only people just being very callous about these things, but also just being very, very disrespectful to victims and their families, and kind of watching this content as if it's a movie and they're siding with the villain or whatever, as if that's what's going on in the situation and not like a crime that was committed, and that there is a victim that was involved, and that victim's family is still very much alive and is now having to deal with all these people speculating and talking badly about their loved one who was just killed, by someone in a true crime case. It's not respectful, and it's not okay, and it's not in any capacity what the proper way to be talking about something. And a lot of true crime YouTubers do this, where they don't do the proper research, they don't do their due diligence that they need to do in order to make sure that the content that they're putting out, to make sure that the story that they're trying to say is indeed as respectful and as accurate as it can be. There is a lot of embellishments, there's a lot of biases, which very obvious biases in a lot of cases towards the perpetrator of the crime. And I think for a lot of true crime content creators, it gets to a point also where they don't see it as the horrific thing that it is. They just view it as a way to get a check, or they view it as just content for them to get more subscribers or more followers or more people tuned into them. And they don't think about the consequences that them making this content has. And while I was actually thinking about this video, it reminded me of that one instance that happened, I believe, a few years ago, where a true crime content creator, there was a YouTuber true crime content creator, who was selling the autopsy photos of a young boy who was murdered for $3. She was selling that young boy's photos, and I'm gonna be as sensitive as possible with that, but that is absolutely fucking disgusting. That is, I can't even fathom how in your brain you can think of doing something like that. But that is probably one of the most extreme cases I can think of, but that is something that has happened, and that happens because of the normalization of true crime content, and more so the way that content creators now view it as their little piggy bank. They're like, I can make money off of this, and whenever money is involved, people lose their sense. They lose their humanity, it seems. And again, I'm not trying to say that anyone who does true crime content is a bad person, and I'm not trying to say that anyone who engages in true crime content or watches true crime content is a bad person. I understand that there are a lot of true crime content creators who are very respectful, who do the research, who reach out to the families, who get their story out there in order to spread awareness, and they do it in the proper manner. And that is the way that it should be done. That is the way that it should have always been. That is a really, really good thing, right? And I can also understand that there are tons of people who look at true crime content and they view it as a sort of way to understand the world around them, right? They use it as a way to sort of as one would watch a documentary almost. And I know a lot of women especially have learned a lot of different techniques and different ways to keep themselves safe through true crime content as well. And I know that a lot of people view it as a educational thing as well. I know a lot of people watch it like that, and I'm not trying to disparage those people. I'm not trying to say that those people are terrible human beings, because that's not the case. I am not talking about the people who engage with the content in a respectful manner. I am talking about the people who do things like, I'm talking about people who were selling autopsy photos. I'm talking about the people who are looking at this as if it's a movie or looking at this as if it's some sort of fictional thing. I'm talking about the people who are being disrespectful and who are not treating the content that they're putting out, not treating the tragedy that they're putting out as the tragedy that it is, and they're not portraying it in a respectful and professional manner. And real talk here, I think it's a normalization, right, of true crime, and I think that with that normalization comes, documentaries and stuff, TV shows that are made, and with that comes a whole host of people that are not able to understand fundamentally what is wrong in a situation. I'm sure we all remember when the Jeffrey Dahmer series came out and people were thirsting over him and were like being like, oh my god, he's so hot and attractive and this and that, and they were like, oh, I wish I was eaten by him. And I'm like, and it was specifically, it was people being very disregarding the actions that he did, making a joke out of it in a situation where, like, it's not a joke, right? Like, someone is gonna call me a sensitive snowflake, and I'm okay with that, but it's not a joke. It's not. There's such a thing as dark humor and there's such a thing as gallows humor, but unless you're in the gallows and you're laughing, you're not participating in gallows humor. If you're in the crowd and laughing, that's just part of the execution. You're not participating in dark humor or trying to cope with something. You're literally just being insensitive and an asshole. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. It's the way that the victims of Dahmer were treated because they were men and they were men of color and they were queer, and it's the way that they were treated as if that scenario was nothing, and people are kind of treating it as like, oh haha, like, I wish I had been in that situation, not taking into account how actually horrific and disgusting those things were. I just think that there's a huge, I would say, empathy crisis, and it bleeds into different areas of the internet and it bleeds into different areas of life, and true crime, I think, is one of the things that perfectly kind of encapsulates this empathy shortage that we are experiencing. And I know a lot of people talk about the growing empathy shortage, and to touch on it kind of briefly, because I'm sure that I'm going to get comments like that on this video, it's kind of showing or almost trying to act as if tragedy isn't actually tragic, or trying to act like something that is serious isn't serious, and not having the empathy to understand, or having that empathy but choosing not to be empathetic, and kind of using that as a way and like being like, oh, it's not that serious, or it's not that deep. It is that deep, right? Everything is that deep. Everything is deep. There is a deeper meaning to literally everything, okay? Saying that something is not deep is just showing that you're kind of ignorant, and more than ignorant, that you're just kind of using that as a way to brush off accountability, to brush off serious topics that need to be discussed. Anyway, I thought that with the rise of true crime content again, I've seen a lot of it recently, and a lot of it has been kind of, disrespectful. And if I wanted to make this video, and someone is gonna say that I'm virtue signaling, and someone is gonna say that I'm, just saying things to make for like a moral standpoint, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, like, I am making this because I want to, and because I want to talk about this and I want to yap about it, and it's really nothing more than that. It's just something that I've always felt, and it's something that I've had an issue with for a very long time, and so I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to discuss it with the audience that I have. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, or you have opinions on it, let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment. Comments are always really appreciated. I want to know your guys' opinion on this. If there's anything that you disagree with, let me know. If there's something that you do agree with, if you have your own opinions on this, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. As always, all of my links are in the description box below. Remember to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.